to my first episode of my podcast, My Fairy Diary. Here I'm just going to, discuss some topics, related to my life, stuff either we all go through, stuff maybe some of us go through that I went through that maybe you can relate about. I don't know. I just thought it would be nice just to talk about my life, and if it helps anyone laugh, get through their day or a hard time, then I would call it a win for me. So, and I have a bunch of headbands because I like going to festivals and stuff, but they're all just in a bin. So I figured, why not put a fun one on? Because they're just collecting dust. Mhm. Might as well get good use out of them. This one Jerry curl in the center of my face is going to distract me. So if it distracts you too, I understand. So my first chapter is going to be living with OCD. I feel like many of us, if not you yourself, you might know someone that struggles with mental illness or mental disorders. I don't like to call it an illness because I don't view them as such, at least the majority of them, or just illness has such a negative connotation. We're not necessarily sick. I mean, just something to, kind of deal with or work around with in your daily life. Yeah. But I have been living with OCD since I could remember. Literally since I could remember. Okay, well, I would say not that early because I can remember some memories from kindergarten. But I would say since third grade, early years. But I honestly think it stems from my mom being in the military. Every time she would deploy, I'm already getting emotional. I don't know why. But every time she would deploy, I would stay with my grandparents for either 6 months to a year at a time, because that's how long she would have to deploy for. As a kid, with a single parent, my mom, it was just me and her. So we still are very tight, and we have been since I was young. So it was really hard for me to cope with her being away from me and not being able to control if she was safe or not. And she's in the Air Force, it's a pretty safe branch. But still, also as a kid, I didn't really understand fully what you do in the military. As a kid, I just assume it's all violence, and so I just assumed she was on the front line every day type thing. So I was always worried about her safety. So I remember when I was younger, I would start doing things every day and it'd become a habit. And then some things, most things that I would do that were quirky were for my mom's safety. For example, let's say my mom was 30 at the time and the clock said 11:30. I had to stare at the clock until it turned 11:31, or else I thought my mom was going to die at age 30. And that's just one of them. If you are someone that also lives with OCD, you you can probably relate that you have a lot of, I call them tics. I forget what's the word for it. Compulsions that you have to do every day to feel okay. Usually they're linked with what you think an outcome might be. So most of them for me was my mom's safety. If I don't do this to a specific T every day, then my mom's at risk type thing. So as a little kid that felt like she didn't have control over stuff, this was my brain allowing me to have more control. Even though, I mean, I also knew at a young age that what I was doing wasn't going to change anything. I knew, I had a deep knowing that even if I didn't do my compulsion, odds are something wasn't bad going to happen. That sounded weird. Odds are something bad wasn't going to happen, but I still had to do it, or else I couldn't sleep at night, or else that would be the only thing on my brain. So growing up early ages, I don't remember having that many compulsions, but I remember it got pretty bad in high school. I'm not sure why. Maybe just because stuff that was out of my control kept like adding up in my life, and I thought this was a way to manage it. Need I preface, my mom is happy, healthy. She's safe. So it's all happy news. She's retired from the military, but it was just hard growing up like that, being a military brat, and also growing up with OCD. That linked. Anyways, yeah, I remember I got more compulsions in high school, and also I feel like it was harder for me to hide my compulsions in high school because I'm just surrounded by people all the time. Granted, like I was in middle school too, but the school that I went to, you stayed in your same class the whole day. So you had, you know, versus high school, you switch classes, meet a bunch of new people, play sports, like clubs, whole bunch of more interaction with people. And that was also when I got my first boyfriend. So now my compulsions were being linked to like other things that I hadn't experienced before. So, for example, in science class, we had a link up with a partner, and one of my compulsions at the time was every time I was done using my calculator, I would have to clear the calculator. Like, let's say I did 2 plus 2 and 4 is left on the calculator. I had to clear it and I had to put 222 in the calculator every time. And honestly, sometimes my compulsions don't really even make sense to me. That one wasn't really even linked to anything. It was just something that I felt the need to do one day and then had to keep it up. And then sometimes, well, honestly, most times for my compulsions, they come out of nowhere and then they fall out of nowhere. Some last way longer than others, some last like a week. I don't know, can't control it. I feel like I have been able to get more of a grip on it as I've gotten older, but it was still very hard to grow up with. Anyways, so I had to do 222 every time I was done using my calculator. And I remember I'm working with a partner in science class and she has to borrow my calculator, or I think we were like sitting next to each other. Sorry, I have to burp. And we were like sharing the calculator, like I was holding it, and and she was like, I was like doing the numbers and she was like writing down the answers, something like that. And after every time I had to do 222, and I would try to like do it slyly so like she wouldn't notice, but she noticed and she was like, why are you doing that? And then I was like kind of mortified. No one has, even my mom, if I'm being honest, I was able to keep like my compulsions and my tics like hidden from my family and friends until I think just one day I was really struggling with one of them and I just had like a breakdown with my mom and just fucking spewed out everything. And it was knowing that it's like a weird thing, it was hard for me to talk about when I was younger. So, my partner in science class noticed I was doing this, and I just like blew it off. I was like, I don't know, I'm just pushing buttons. I don't know, it's just for fun type thing. Like, I'm not gonna explain to her. I didn't know her that well. Like, what am I gonna say? So I was like, oh, I just blew it off. But that was like my first time being like called out on like a compulsion, and I was like, I don't know what to say. I remember I had a really bad one. And if you are someone that is struggling with OCD and you have like compulsions that are just not safe for you or others, I don't know. It's really tough to deal with that because it's not like I can tell you to just stop, of course. But I don't know, if you do have one that is like dangerous for you or others, maybe try to reframe it in your brain so you can adjust the tic accordingly in your mind to where it still works. And I bring this up because the next compulsion that I had in high school was was not a good one, and it was a hard one for me to break. But eventually I had to make a mental adjustment so I can make a physical adjustment, if that makes sense, to my compulsion. Anyways, so let me lay it out. I'm in high school. I have my first boyfriend. I'm in love, the whole 9-9. First love, they hit hard. At least for me it did. So I don't know why. Well, of course I don't know why. Anyways, so I lived, just like on a street. So let's say I live here, like on the corner house, and then across the street, not the house in front of me, but on the opposite corner, this house. A pretty girl, my age, just moved in recently. I forget where she'd moved from, but she had like an accent. She was gorgeous and she had this accent, new to our high school. I feel like foreign students, at least for me, like, I don't know, if someone from England or France or somewhere came to my high school, all the girls would just like swoon over them, like, whoa, the new kid has an accent. Wow, we automatically love him. So, my thought process was my current boyfriend was gonna meet this new girl that had just moved in, like new to our school, with cute accent, and he was just gonna fall in love with her. Okay, that was my thought process. So every time I was driving, like out of my neighborhood, I would have to pass her house. If I'm, like, going this way, my house is here, the exit's over here, I have to pass her house. Driving this way, you drive on the right side of the road if you're in the US, so I would have to pass her house. So, in my brain, I had to physically stay as far away from this chick and her house so my boyfriend wouldn't date her. It's not logical when I say it out loud. And I get that. That's the point. That's the point I'm making. 9 times out of 10, my thought process, the compulsions, etc., what they're linked to, they don't logically make sense. That's why it's hard. I had to stay away from her, or else I thought, my boyfriend was going to leave me for her. Anyways, so instead of driving on the right side of the road, the correct side of the road, I would have to drive on the left side of the road so I could be as far away from her house as possible as I was driving past it. Dangerous? Yes, dangerous. And there were many times where, another car would be coming from the other direction, because so her house was on the corner, so sometimes a car would come around the corner as I'm coming up on the left side of the road, the wrong side, and like there would be less time for me to, like, correct myself, if that makes sense. So a couple times I'm literally like coming on ahead with the person, they're just beeping at me like, get in your lane type thing. Eventually, I was like, oh my gosh, Ellie, you can't keep this up. Like, you can't keep this up. If not for you, like, for others. For others. So eventually, I just would take the long way to the exit. It was like 5 minutes longer. Like, instead of going this way, I just went this way, back out, to just avoid her house altogether. I don't know why I didn't start with that, but here we are. So that was probably one of my least favorite tics that I've ever had to deal with. And thank goodness I haven't had like another one to that caliber in regards to like safety. But yeah, when it came to my first relationship, I had so many compulsions. I had so many because I was just so in love and I wanted to stay in love and stay, like, with my boyfriend. And I thought the more compulsions I have and did, the stronger our relationship would be. So I had a lot at one point, and it was a very, very stressful for me internally, mentally, physically. Like, it's so draining. It's so draining. Like, some of them, I had tiles in my house, and in my head, I was only allowed to walk on certain tiles, or else my boyfriend would break up with me. I had to flip the light switches on like 5 times, or until it felt right. The list can go on and on. Doing the dishes was a really hard one for me because I had to step on certain tiles while doing the dishes, and then like set the dishes and like release them in a certain way to where like it felt good on my arms. I don't know, that one's really hard to explain, and that's why that one was really hard for me, because if I can't even explain the compulsion, like what my thought process is for it, then it's harder for me to actually do the compulsion correctly. So sometimes I would be stuck in this loop trying to just get this one correct for like 10 to 15 minutes, and just getting so frustrated and just so built up with just like internal anger. I'm like, my mind has control over me. And I know it's not logical. And I know that if I didn't do it, I'm sure it would be fine. But I can stop. I can stop. A big breaking point for me in just living with OCD was actually my first relationship, because I was just so in love with my relationship with my boyfriend at the time, and racking up all these compulsions, so we would have a strong relationship, together forever type thing. And then he broke up with me out of the blue, and I was devastated. I was devastated. And then it was almost like a switch flipped in a way. I still currently am living with OCD. 9 times out of 10, if you have OCD, you live with it, for your life, and you just learn to deal with it better, you manage it better, or go to therapy for it, etc. I mean, there's many ways to cope with it. But anyways, at that time, it was like a light switch for me. It was I was devastated and heartbroken, but on the flip side of it, I also had just like a weight lifted off my shoulders, because not only in turn did I, lose my boyfriend, I also got to erase all of these compulsions that I did for our relationship. And in my head, I'm like, if I was doing like these 10 things to keep us together and none of them worked, what the hell am I doing? What the hell am I doing? That whole thing like helped me, I don't know if realize is the right word, but helped me to, I don't know, just like shake off and just be able to walk away from some compulsions that I had for years. Because I'm like, I did all this and it still didn't work out for us. Then why should I be doing all these other ones? Type thing. So it was really good for me on that part. And that catalyst moment for me was a really huge turning point on how I managed living with OCD. I basically, after that moment, I still have compulsions, but way less, way less than when I used to, because now, after that, I could link my compulsions to more like overarching stuff, not just like, he's gonna love me forever. He's gonna stay with me forever type thing, versus, just being a happy person. I hope that kind of makes sense. But yeah, so going into college then, behind closed doors for me, that's when the compulsions come out. So I was so concerned on the idea of living with a roommate. I was like, I don't want to be asked questions from this stranger why I'm doing what I'm doing every day, or being like, you're weird. Like I didn't want to have to explain what I'm dealing with, even when I feel like I can't even explain it fully to myself, like to some chick. I was really struggling going into college because I was just afraid. I was like, I I don't want to live with a roommate. I don't want to have to deal with this. So thank goodness the school I went to, UNR, has a very great disability center, and I basically got to speak to one of the supervisors there and explain to them what I go through on a daily basis living with OCD, and I was able to get a single dorm room. So I got to live by myself in a dorm room, which was really great for me. So honestly, like college in regards to OCD, didn't really have any issues, just, did them when I felt the need to do them. Being able to discover myself more and being able to be more comfortable in my skin and more confident while I was in college, like just really getting to know myself more, I became more and more open to discussing having OCD, truly. I literally went from not telling anyone about it, not even my mom about it until I was in high school, to telling my boss, my sorority sisters, my, partner at the time that I'm dealing with this and that I don't think it's a bad thing, but just it's a part of me and I live with it. And it's not weird. I mean, if you think weird is a bad thing, it's not weird. If you think weird is a good thing, then it is weird. Nothing wrong with being a little quirky. So I was able to, and honestly, the more I talked about it, the more I just felt like just stuff getting lifted off of me. Some compulsions are no joke. So, yeah, honestly, the more I was open about it, the more I just felt comfortable living with it, I guess. And it's very freeing to do it. If if you're someone that has OCD and you're afraid to talk about it and tell anyone about it, I completely get it. Completely get it. But it might be helpful if you do talk about it, if you do tell, a trusted friend or, loved one. Baby steps, maybe write down like how it makes you feel, what your current compulsions are, or even talk to yourself out loud about it. It might help, rework your brain on how it controls you. It really controlled me at one point, and now I feel like I can control it, which was a huge thing for me because now I feel like I'm a person with OCD, not that the OCD is like, covering me, if that makes sense. I feel like it's just a little pinpoint in me, not this whole ordeal. It helped me connect with people. Like when I told my boss, when I told my coworkers about it, I just felt closer with them, and they, maybe they feel more comfortable to tell me stuff about themselves, and I love that. I love being that person for people. It's nice when that's reciprocated. And same with like some of my friends. One of my friend even opened up to also having it, and like if I didn't start that conversation, we both just would have lived our lives to like as friends, but didn't know we have something so deep in common that when we talk about it together, it really helps. We like help each other because we have that deep bond and deep understanding what it's like to live with OCD, and now we get to talk to someone, a trusted friend, about it. You might be able to find that in someone as well too. It's definitely something that I let define me for a long time. I think because for also a long time I viewed it as a negative thing. And it truly isn't. Like it's so tiring sometimes to deal with it, but it's just a part of you. It doesn't have to define you. It's just can be another thing for you to love about yourself and for others to love about yourself. Okay? Yeah. But currently, I'm doing great with living with OCD. It doesn't really, like, I don't really connect now my compulsions with something bad happening. I try to not link my compulsions to anything negative. If anything, it would be only positive, you know? So if I didn't do this compulsion, then, nothing negative is coming from it, only something positive. I mean, it's not that easy. It's not like I could do that all the time. I still have my moments, but like and I don't have that many anymore, which is feels so freaking amazing. And at a point in my life, I didn't think I was ever going to come to this point. I thought that I was going to be at my low point. I thought I was going to like be at my lowest forever. Living like this forever, being consumed by my thoughts and by my compulsions and just by negative thoughts, because they were linked. Like, oh my gosh, I'm a slave to my compulsions because if I don't do them, my fucking world's gonna crumble. And it's hard to get out of that. It is. But like I told you, some events really just were catalysts on, pushing me out of at least the negativity portion of it. But yeah, so my compulsions now, I don't have that many, thank freaking goodness, but every time I open a door, I have to I have to push the handle upwards. So, usually when you open a door, you just push it downwards and you open it. I have to do it upwards because in my mind, only up, only positive. Down equals negative. So we're only doing positive movements. So that means opening the door handles upwards. Believe it or not, I still have the calculator one. That one was never really linked to anything negative. It just always felt like something that I should do for some reason. So every time I still have it up. Every time I use my calculator, I had to end it on 222. I mean, this one is not too like stressful, thank goodness, versus, ones I've had in the past. I still do it. I'm trying to think of other ones that I have. I definitely do have them, but because I don't have that many, can't really think of them off the top of my head. But that's a good thing. I'm not complaining. But yeah, for a while, I truly felt alone in regards to trying to cope with OCD by myself because I didn't want to tell anyone about it. I didn't want people to look at me different, to view me differently, think that, I don't know, I'm damaged or weird because I know that I'm not. It was just something that I live with. And we all have something. Doesn't mean it's bad. Definitely took me a while to go through it, and I'm so grateful to feel like I'm on top of it. Like I truly feel like I'm in the one control now, not that it's controlling me. If you are someone that is living with OCD and or any other mental illness, you're not alone, first off. And two, just because it's bad now, that does not mean it won't get better. It truly, if you put in the work, it will get better. Doesn't mean it's easy. Trust me, it's not easy, but it does get easier. It does. And I I'm proud of you, regardless of what stage you're on, regardless of anything. I'm proud of you. And, if you can relate to my story at all, if you found any parts of it funny or helpful, that's enough for me because that's my goal. I mean, if anything, it helps me just saying it out loud. So I've already helped one person. So anything more is a bonus. But I'm super freaking grateful that everyone that I've like poured myself out or opened up about living with OCD have been so understanding and so supportive. When at first I thought I was gonna be like, shunned for being this like. So if you are scared to open up, give whoever you're thinking about telling the benefit of the doubt. They might surprise you, and hopefully they'll be nothing but supportive and understanding. I really do think it helps to say it out loud or try to express what you're going through. I don't think it's good to keep it bottled up. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Even if you want to write it down, I still think that helps. But thank you so much for watching my first episode. I can't wait to, keep talking to you about my life and for you to get to know me more. If there's any specific topics you want to hear me talk about, leave them in the comment section down below and I'll for sure get to them. I think this will be really fun for both of us. I think it's just what's the word? Healing. Just to talk about life, the ups and downs, the goods and bads, the pretty and ugly. I think it's all beneficial. But again, thank you so much for watching. I love you so freaking much. These are my other channels if you'd like to follow me. And this fairy is out. Peace.